What's next? Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Welcome. You're listening to the Financial Survival Network. It's Kerry, Lutz, and overview. What's going on with gold and silver? What's going on with the cartel? Where is it all heading? Well, nobody knows better than Bix Weir. Bix, welcome back.
Hey, Kerry. How you doing in all this turmoil?
Oh, man. Well, we're trying to keep our sanity, but a lot of you out there not having such a happy time of it, but got to keep your sense of humor, right, Bix?
You do, and you got to know that this will end, and it's not real what we're saying. It's just manipulation after manipulation. So, one day we will get free and true markets. It's not today, and it probably won't be tomorrow, but very soon, if you ask me.
Oh, man. When you just watch, the gyrations of gold in a day, and then, it's up $37.50 on Friday. And then they try to pound it down. It's off over $30, and then in the afternoon, it starts creeping back up. And
aren't they good at that?
Yeah. Oh,
it's all done. I've been saying this for years, and I've proven it. It's all done with computer programs. It's probably at this point, it's probably one little guy in the basement of the Treasury or the New York Fed putting these programs buy and sell to each other to, rack your nerves, to scare you out of gold and silver. It's a rigged con game. 99.9% of the trades that happen are banks trading back and forth to each other on the COMEX, and the LBMA doesn't even trade really. It's such a ridiculous joke. 4 or 5 people decide the price of everything. So yeah, just. This is the end game. They can put the price of gold and silver to zero and shut down the markets if they want. That's why you got to keep your metal out of their hands in your own possession.
Hey, so Switzerland, the financial regulator there says, silver's being manipulated. Surprise. And not just front running, which they nailed UBS for, but on a grander scale. And all this is just in time for the referendum, which is coming up in just a couple of short weeks. I mean, it's the 13th now. November 30th is D-Day. So what do? They block PayPal from allowing them to transmit contributions to the pro-gold referendum side. Like that's going to make a difference. And of course, the anti-referenda side is running a commercial every 10 seconds. It's got to be like the Charlie Crist, Rick Scott campaign here in Florida for governor. Like, like just back-to-back commercials. He's a liar. No, he's a liar. No, he's a worse liar. No, he lies about everything. His mother's awful. I mean, it was the most pathetic campaign, and I'm sure that's what this campaign, the anti-gold referenda campaign, is just trying to scare the bejesus out of everybody there that, you're not going to be able to buy chocolate if they pass the campaign. The Swiss will stop producing chocolate,
Well, here's the interesting thing, and this is when you vote on anything these days. There is no free voting market. All the machines are made by Diebold, or if it's a paper ballot, they just change the ballot like they did in Scotland. Yeah. The reality is they meaning in my book it's the bad guys, are still in control, but it's more and more obvious to me that they are losing control because their control is having to become visible. 5 years ago, you wouldn't even have got a Swiss referendum to buy gold anywhere close to the voting booths. You wouldn't have been able to see any of this COMEX market rigging. There would be no talk of it. Now there's talk every day. Every day I open the paper, there's someone getting busted for rigging the FX market or the silver and gold markets. What's Jeff Christian got to say now that the word is starting to leak out that, oh yeah, by the way, here's specific examples of rigging gold and silver. For 10 years he's been saying, oh, there's no such thing as market rigging. Those tinfoil hat guys are idiots, and he'd throw his just vile crap at us at the Silver Summit. And now it's being proven that it's being done. The actual people are coming out. The people are getting investigated. What's Jeff Christian got to say now? Is he going to take back all those things he said about GATA and you and me? No, he's just going to walk off into the sunset with his, paid for lifestyle by the banks.
It's always been what I call real-time rigging. It's just as the thing goes, they're rigging it. And, and it's like what happened in the Flash Boys. Like the guy would say, from some mutual fund, he'd be looking at a ticker, watching the screen on CNBC, but that is fake. It's totally fake. He would say that's not really the prices. And, hundreds of thousands of bids would be up there and then they'd be canceled. So there is no real market anymore, right?
Well, that's exactly true. But we always knew that. The COMEX trades, I think it's 80 billion ounces of paper silver every year. 80 billion. There hasn't even been 80 billion ounces mined in the history of the world. That's nothing. That is complete vapor. And 90% of those trades, I'd say 99%, are bankers trading back and forth to each other to set the price somewhere. Same with the LBMA. The con goes on. And it's funny, Reuters had an article about the foreign exchange traders getting busted and having to pay a couple $1 billion fine on a $5 trillion market that trades every day. But the real gist of that article was not that, they got busted and boy, are we mad at these guys. But they even said in the article, nothing has changed. The rig will go on as it has always gone on. And this is in Reuters. So, go about your business because they'll pay a $2 fine for a $10 billion gain.
This is like what always happened too with the mob. They would, they would just commit heinous crimes, Bix, steal millions, and then they would have to commit, do restitution, give us back 250,000 and just, okay. And go to jail for a couple of years. And
well, these guys don't even go to jail.
Yeah, I know.
And they're talking
go to jail.
They're talking billions and trillions. Look at Jamie Dimon, great example. Finally, after 5 years, 6 years since the mortgage scandal and all that, the banks were caught selling toxic mortgage-backed derivatives that they knew about. 6 years later, now they're finally, whistleblowers are coming out and, Jamie Dimon's a bad guy. Well, he was a bad guy back then, and these whistleblowers were blowing the whistle back then, and nobody did anything. But now, here's the real interesting thing. They're starting to leak the information now. That is a huge sign that this game that they've been playing for the past 5 or 6 years since the last crash is about to come to an end. And the next crash, that's what I'm looking for, the next crash. Everybody's talking about it, could happen any day, fine, whatever. But the right people are going to be targeted for going to prison. I do think Jamie Dimon will end up in prison if he's lucky, or he'll, disappear one day and had said to have committed suicide and go off to that special island in the Bahamas where all the other banksters go when they commit suicide.
Yeah, I think Elvis is there too, right?
It's just ridiculous. But the good sign, I know the prices of gold and silver are hitting the floor, and they'll probably, who knows where they go. They can send it wherever they want. The good sign, though, is I believe it's ending. And I believe it's ending because all this information is coming out into the public. And once the next crash happens and the housing prices start going down and people start losing their checking accounts, that's when we'll finally stand up and say, it's time to get these bankers out of here.
It's going to be quite a fireworks display when you think about it, because
it's already started in my mind. You look around at the news, it's crazy out there.
Oh yeah. Hey, just look at the election. The aftermath. Not that
was there an election? Oh man!
They said
I didn't even know it was happening.
Well, the thing is, like the Obamacare thing. Okay, those movies, those videos are coming out finally. No thanks to the mainstream media, but you and I, people aware of these things, all knew it was a fraud, that it was never intended to work, that it was just a big scam trying to, much like the financial system, trying to make you think that you were going to get more for less. And
And there were thousands of scams within the scam, all kinds of things. They even had stuff related to gold and silver. And the insanity of that Obamacare, they wrap it up in that name. It's got all kinds of things in there. They got death panels. You name it. It's in there. And it's been changed 10 times. So it's completely illegal. You can't change a law without going back to the people who created the law. And they didn't.
Yeah.
So
we learned in, I think it was in elementary school, that Congress passed the laws, that the president signed the laws into, existence, or he vetoed them. And then, that was the way the system worked. And then the courts could either, find them constitutional, unconstitutional, get rid of part of them, whatever. That was the way the system was supposed to work. And somehow none of that is happening anymore. But all of a sudden, you can only fool the people for so long, right?
We've been fooled for so long. It's embarrassing. Yeah, what is the law these days? We can bomb any country we want by presidential, side letter.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
which is completely ridiculous, but we do it. And the problem, the bad guys have taken full power and they think they can do anything they want. And that has been the case because they make the masses happy by giving them money, giving them cheap interest, giving them free money, giving the banks free money to give that cheap interest. And, everybody's happy because their 401k looks good and their house, but went back up in value and everything's fine again. And so they pat our heads and they say, you guys go about your business, we'll go about ours.
Nothing to see here.
Yeah, and never the two shall meet until one of us screws up badly, and then this whole house of cards comes down, and then you the people will be very mad at me, the government official and the banker and the bad guy.
Hey, well, let's talk up next about what happens when the system stops, when it seizes up, and where that's going to leave you, who shouldn't have prepared for it but hadn't, on the Financial Survival Network.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next.
Worried about the coming dollar collapse? Then you need to speak to Tom Cloud today about buying gold and silver. It's the key to protecting your wealth from a declining dollar. Call him now at 800-247-2812. Tom will help you find the exact right bullion products to keep you safe. Would you believe that Tom's been in the business for 38 years? Tom understands these markets better than just about anybody. He's seen bull markets and he's seen bear markets, and he's not worried, and you shouldn't be either. When it comes to uncertain times like these, there's only one place to turn, and that's gold and silver. And Tom's offering all FSN listeners free shipping and insurance. So call Tom now at 800-247-2812. That's 800-247-2812, or visit cloudhardassets.com and tell him Kerry sent you.
The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
And hey, in case you just stopped by, just tuned the dial in, it's Financial Survival Network. We're talking with Bix Weir, roadtoroota.com. And Bix, the system's going to seize at some point. It just is becoming too fragile, too vulnerable, and too unstable. And you just see it. It's like the guy on the stilts at the 4th of July, and he gets whacked from behind and he starts rocking back and forth, and he's going to fall. And, but so many of you out there just don't want to believe it's going to happen, right? But I think people are waking up to the fact that there's a certain inevitability to all of this, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yes. That's the key is, everybody and their mother who has half a brain is saying this is unsustainable. It's going to end. It's going to end. We've been saying that for a long time. Not many people talk about the end and what happens when the system seizes up. And I tend to spend a lot of time saying, okay, what's the plan? We've known since, 1971, when the Treasury Secretary went to Europe and said to these European bankers, the dollar, it may be our currency, but it's your problem. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly the truth. We can print as many of these things as we want, and it has no ramifications. We rig the PMI and all the inflation indicators. The reality is we're the largest debtor nation in the world, and when it ends, all electronic debt will be gone. All electronic assets will be gone, and all electronic debt. And remember, electronic debt and electronic assets, they're really a creation of the 1970s introduction of the computer into the banking world. Before that, you had your passbook, you had hard assets. The reality of this electronic fiat system and the ether that stocks and bonds and gold and silver are traded in, it's all a fantasy, 100%. And the day that this freezes up is the day that really comes to everybody's reality. Those people who think, I had $100,000 in my 401k and I was ready to retire. You had nothing in your 401k. You didn't even have stocks in your 401k. The 401k companies and the brokerage houses, they don't go out and buy your stocks. They take your money. They'll debit your account and tell you have something, but they use that money and they go gamble with it and fund their little missions around the world to control ISIS. That's the classic. The latest is ISIS announces they're going on a gold and silver standard. ISIS is created by the CIA, was run and funded by the CIA still, and now they're saying they're going to gold and silver. What does that tell me? It tells me that the bad guys are trying to villainize gold and silver and say, oh, these terrorists use gold and silver, so no one should have it, and we're going to make it completely illegal. That's the kind of future we're looking at from their side. And the question is, can we stop this madness before they, come to our house with guns trying to get the gold and silver? Mm-hmm. They do it once and it makes the news. You can kiss the government goodbye, because gold and silver holders they're also gun holders for the most part, but they're not going to stand by and let this crap happen much longer. And I do think we are very close to that end game.
Yeah. Well, interesting. The only difference between the United States, Bix, and every other country in the world basically is the Second Amendment when you get down to it,
It's true. And I didn't even understand it back, 10, 15 years ago. I used to think, oh my God, how can we let guns out with the people? Only bad people use guns, and only bad people, bad things happen if guns are out there. Why don't we just collect all the guns like they did in England? And, I'm completely changed, and it's those people that control the laws that are the ones that we really have to protect ourselves from. And the only way to do that is to own a gun and be ready to use that gun, either if your government comes after you or another country invades our country. That's the biggest deterrent for anybody invading the United States, is everybody's armed. What are they going to do? Are they going to walk down the streets with their armies getting picked off one by one every time they pass a house with a loaded gun? It is an amazing way to save our country, and is the only thing that stands between us and them taking us over completely. Yeah,
I really believe it. I wasn't such a Second Amendment enthusiast in my earlier years either. I mean, I was kind of ambivalent to it, but as I spent more time down south, which has a rich history of firearms ownership and relatives and such, and saw that as they liberalized right to carry and watched the crime rate go down, it just dawned on me. And then I've had friends who've broken up armed robberies without ever having to fire a shot, just saying, hey, I got a gun, and you leave that person alone, and, the person takes off. And, I've seen it with my own eyes and said, oh, that's how this thing works. It's the whole point is not having to fire a shot. That's what made me a believer in it. And then, going back and reading the Federalist Papers and the whole background, the president said, well, we have a rich history tradition of hunting. That wasn't what the Second Amendment was about.
No.
It's ridiculous. I mean, I listened to that and I just laughed because the
But
Second Amendment.
it's a good excuse in times of peace, because otherwise, in times of peace, they'll come and confiscate your guns. So you need a good excuse to keep your guns, and the hunting thing. Well, if that works, fine. Here's my reality on this. I didn't buy my first gun until after the Rodney King riots.
Oh, really?
I live in Oakland, California, not the safest place in the world, but I was watching these riots go on in LA, and I'm thinking, it started to spread. There were some riots in Oakland. I'm thinking, I'm sitting here in my house. They're going door to door in downtown LA already. What am I going to do? What would I do if the banks crash and all bedlam breaks out and people start going door to door ransacking? I had no protection. That's when I got my first gun and really took some time to learn about guns and why they're important.
Yeah, well, I lived in a town where the town was like about 5 miles wide and about 12 miles long. And at night, there weren't a lot of people there. And at night, there's one cop on duty in a car. And it could take 15 minutes for him to get to you. Said, it's like that could be 15 minutes, could be a long time. And granted, there wasn't much crime there. But, you have to wonder, like, what if somebody else's crime takes priority over yours, somebody else's call? And you know things are tough as this conversation transitions from gold and silver manipulation right to guns. I love it. Yeah, well, the two are integrally connected because it's taking responsibility for your own personal financial safety and your own personal safety, right?
Yeah, physical gold and silver; those are your financial guns when it comes to what's going on in the markets these days.
Yeah, and of course, that's what the mainstream will vilify us about. Well, a bunch of gun nuts, gold nuts, right? Gold bugs, gun nuts, it's one and the same.
Oh, yeah. There's no doubt in my mind, at some point, if this keeps going on the way it is, the government will turn its sights to war, and they'll turn its sights to vilifying those who, believe in the Constitution, believe in hard money. And if it keeps going the way it is, if there's a crash, which is likely at any moment between now and whenever, then everything will change. Then people will stand up and say, what in the world have we been thinking, letting these people control our lives like this?
Yeah, we're getting closer to that day because, look, I think just about everybody out there gets the fact that the economy is not getting better. They could do all this smoke and mirrors stuff. And again, the videos of this Gruber character from MIT, genius, saying we just lied. All right, so you lied about Obamacare. You're probably lying about other things. You're probably lying about everything. And it's just like you and I have been talking about for years, Bix. They're lying about everything, whether it's about money, whether it's about gold, about markets, free markets. Everything is a lie. Everything's an illusion, right?
Well, it wasn't an illusion when Obama went over to China recently and completely got shunned by everybody there. And you got Putin in the head of China hugging and everybody else except the United States in on every agreement and handshake and group. Obama was put way in the corner in the group picture, and there's Putin right up front. That's the reality. The reality is the world is playing the game to their advantage, and the United States is playing the game in a very disadvantaged position, and we are losing, and the only way to win is to crash the system. That way our debt goes away, and we can, go back to our Constitution.
Yeah. And, the wisdom of the Constitution, it worked for 150 some odd years. It's only since 1913 where things have really started to go down, and maybe there's reason for hope.
There were battles all the way back to the beginning of the nation, and there will continue to be battles after these bad guys are taken out and part of being a free state is fighting for that freedom. And hopefully enough people, you and I have touched enough people, and all the people who are out there in the freedom movement have touched enough people such that when the crash does happen and they do lose their life savings and the bad guys attempt at taking away our freedom, people will stand up, and there's enough honesty out there that can shine through if we stand up and take these bad guys down, which I think we are. Everything I watch, all the news coming out, it says basically they're in their dying days, and it won't be long now.
Well, we can only hope. Bix, and you find Bix's work, roadtoruta.com, and the link is always found in the show notes to this interview on financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Bix, we'll talk to you soon. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Kerry.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.